the Vikings now are halfway done with their schedule, 8 games into the season, we will be discussing the best case scenario for the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings went into a bye week 1-5 after a terrible start to the season. I mean, the entire team looked awful. Outside of Dalvin Cook and Eric Hendricks and possibly a couple other guys, the entire team looked awful, and that Falcons game was horrendous. That was one of the worst, probably the worst game I've seen in a long time by the Minnesota Vikings. That was terrible. But anyways, Vikings started out the season 1-5 after playing their worst stretch, their hardest stretch of the game, the hardest stretch of their schedule after only beating the Houston Texans. Of course, that was because of Dalvin Cook. But still, now the Vikings have won 2 divisional games, and these are going to be huge for the Minnesota Vikings after beating the Packers and the Lions. After Dalvin Cook beat the Packers and the Lions, because all they had to do was give the ball to Dalvin Cook, and he won you those games. What we learned from the Minnesota Vikings, we are not capable of losing with an injured Dalvin Cook. When Dalvin Cook went out against the Seattle Seahawks, Vikings looked awful. When Dalvin Cook went out against he was still out. When Dalvin Cook was out during the Atlanta Falcons game, Vikings looked horrendous. Vikings are terrible without Dalvin Cook. That's the reason why. And we look at our schedule going forward, and Vikings very likely can still make a playoff. And this is why we're going to be talking about this. Of course, I don't know if best case scenario would be making the playoffs, because of course the Vikings cannot compete. They cannot compete in their division, and they cannot compete for a Super Bowl. But with 7 teams making the playoffs now, and how the NFC is looking right now, Vikings can make the playoffs. Can they compete for a Super Bowl? No. But they can make the playoffs, and maybe even win a game in the playoffs. I don't see them going very far, though. Of course, you look at the NFC right now, the entire NFC West looks like they can make the playoffs. The NFC South looks like both Saints and Buccaneers can make the playoffs. NFC East is awful. NFC North looks like Vikings, Packers, or Bears will all make the playoffs possibly. But with 7 teams making the playoffs, all you really need to do is get a winning record, and you will possibly make the playoffs. You will probably make the playoffs with a winning record. You look at the games Vikings have going forward, after coming off of a great 2-game divisional wins, Vikings have a bunch of games going forward that look like locks. They look like the Vikings should be able to win. Now, again, this is with a healthy Dalvin Cook. I can't rely on Dalvin Cook to be healthy the rest of the season. I don't think it's going to happen. But we have to say, if Dalvin Cook is healthy, that is our best case scenario, is that Dalvin Cook stays healthy, and he will continue to win us games, because all you have to do is give Dalvin Cook at least 20 carries a game, and he will win you the game. This is all you have to do. Of course, I don't think Dalvin Cook for the rest of the season is going to have as great of a game as he did against the Detroit Lions, but still, we play the Lions again. We can give Dalvin Cook 22 carries again, and we will win the game. We play the Detroit Lions week 17, and I don't think the Lions will be playing for the playoffs at that point, so they won't have much of a reason to win, unless if the Vikings have a reason to win, then they will want to mess up the Viking season, basically. But it is clear the Vikings cannot compete in the NFC or even their division, but that doesn't mean they cannot make the playoffs. So we will be talking about scenarios where the Vikings can make the playoffs. Of course, we have to look at the games going forward. We play the Bears twice. Now, Bears, of course, Bears defense is great. Bears defense is amazing. But you can run all over the Bears defense still. And the way the Vikings offense is built can destroy the Bears defense. You just gotta feed Dalvin. That's all you gotta do. Use that run to set up the pass, and you win the game. That's all you really have to do against the Chicago Bears. We play them twice, and we should think that the Vikings will beat them twice. Our other divisional game that we have is against the Detroit Lions. So those are 3 divisional wins right now. And you got to win all those 3 divisional wins if you want to make the playoffs, because they're going to have to outbeat the Rams. They're going to have to outbeat won't have to outbeat the Buccaneers as well, but the Rams, the Seahawks might, the Bears, they're going to have to outbeat some of these teams. And then you look at the other games the Minnesota Vikings play. They play the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys. This is going to be a very interesting game. Now, the Dallas Cowboys are terrible. Of course, they lost Dak Prescott, and they're terrible. But that offense can roll all over our defense. The way the Vikings defense is built, the Dallas Cowboys can destroy us. Of course, they don't have a big deep threat. Now, if Andy Dalton is there, they might have a big deep threat in Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. They might be able to throw deep, but still, Vikings can't stop the run at all. They can't get to the passer very well, so possibly the Vikings will manage to get beat deep as well. But anyways, Vikings defense should be able to hold the Cowboys to under 30. I know with Andy Dalton there, it's probably very unlikely, but still, Cowboys defense sucks. I mean, all you got to do is feed Dalvin Cook against the Cowboys, and you'll win again. That's all you really have to do, because the Cowboys cannot stop the run. They're one of the worst teams against the run, and then they are also bad against the pass. So you can pass and run all over the Cowboys. That's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be an offensive game. It's going to be a shootout. I think both teams will be in the 30s. Of course, we saw the Cowboys play the Vikings last year. The Vikings ended up winning that game. I think it was a Sunday Night Football game. Vikings ended up winning that game, and it was a shootout. Both teams were in the 30s. It was a great game. And then they play the Panthers. Panthers defense, again, they're terrible. If the Vikings offense plays a bad defense, they should be able to put up at least 30. Again, you're running the clock down with Dalvin Cook. So it's going to be hard, because you're running the clock down with Dalvin Cook if you're giving him all these carries. Anyways, they do play the Panthers, and when they play the Panthers, they should be able to win. They should be able to win. Again, the Panthers offense will kill our defense because of how they are operated. Teddy Bridgewater is throwing great deep balls right now. They have a bunch of pieces on offense, and that's going to be a shootout. But again, the Vikings should be able to win this game, because the Vikings by far are a better offense than the Panthers, and even a better defense. That's how bad the Panthers defense is. So the Vikings should be able to win all those games right there. And then you look at the other things. They play the Jaguars. Vikings will destroy the Jaguars. You can run all over them. You can pass all over them. The defense might even be able to hold them to under 20 points this game. Vikings will destroy the Jaguars. Now, what I just said, I said all that fast because I was going over the easy wins. I was going over the games the Vikings will probably win. We have to look at these other two games, because the only two tough games the Vikings play are the two best teams against the run. That's going to be tough. This is going to really test the Vikings offense. Even with a healthy Dalvin Cook, can you beat the Buccaneers and Saints? Because you can try to feed Dalvin Cook, but they are the two best teams against the run right there. The Buccaneers defense is amazing against the run. They have the best linebacker group in the NFL, and that offense for the Buccaneers will destroy the Vikings defense. They have too many pieces for Eric Kendricks to handle. I don't see any scenario where the Vikings can beat the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are the best team against the run, and their offense has too many pieces for the Vikings to be able to game plan against. Buccaneers will kill us. I know they're not better than the Saints. We saw this. We saw the Saints run all over them. The Saints destroyed the Buccaneers 2 games already this season. I don't see in any scenario where the Vikings can beat the Buccaneers. I don't see it. Their entire offense is built to destroy the Vikings defense. Their entire defense is built to stop the Vikings offense. I don't see us winning this game at all. I don't see it happening. I would give it like a 3% chance that the Vikings end up beating the Buccaneers. So, of course, for that reason, we have to give this a loss. Now the Vikings would be 7-6 at this point, and then their other team that they do play would be the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints on Christmas Day. New Orleans Saints, this is going to be an interesting game because Vikings have a chance of beating the New Orleans Saints. Of course, they are the second best team against the run, and their offense has too many pieces for the Vikings defense to handle. But still, Vikings offense can look great against the New Orleans Saints. And the reason is because what the Vikings do when they pass is just go for first downs. We haven't seen very often this year where the Vikings throw those deep balls, where they try to get those big plays. We just see them throw for first downs. We see them do short passes to Justin Jefferson, short passes to Thielen, short passes to Irv Smith, short passes to Dalvin, short passes to Kyle Rudolph. We see a lot of short passes. And you can do this against the New Orleans Saints. You can't do this against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You just can't. You can do this against the New Orleans Saints. And if the Vikings can manage to run that clock down on those short 10-yard passes to get first downs and just rack up those first downs, Vikings can beat the Saints. And we've seen it so far. I don't think there's going to be very many big plays against the New Orleans Saints because I don't think that the Vikings are going to be operating like that. We saw how Gary Kubiak runs this offense. We don't see very much of that, but still, Vikings can beat the Saints. I would still give them about a 25% chance. Of course, it is an away game, but there's not going to be fans at the stands or any of that. But the Saints offense will still roll against the Vikings defense. We know that the Saints will put up at least 30 points against the Vikings defense because Vikings can't hold a team to under 30 points if they have this many playmakers. Like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're going to put up probably over 40, possibly even over 50 against the Vikings defense. They're going to roll all over the Vikings defense. Saints, again, they have so many playmakers on offense. I don't think the Vikings are going to be able to handle them. I don't. Vikings offense can compete. I know the Saints are the second best team against the run, so you're not going to be able to feed Dalvin, give him at least 20 carries a game. You can give him like 12 carries. You can still use Dalvin Cook against them. I don't expect him to get any big runs like he has been so far this season, but still, this is going to test the Vikings offense. Against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and against the New Orleans Saints, they are going to be forced to pass. Against the Buccaneers, they're going to be forced to pass and make big plays passing because they're going to be passing to catch up. When you pass to catch up to how many points the Buccaneers are going to be putting up, you try to make those big plays. I don't see in any scenario where the Vikings can compete because the Buccaneers will score on every drive. Vikings will not be able to. And that's the reason why I don't see at all the Vikings being able to beat the Buccaneers. Even though the Saints are a tougher team, I see more possibilities of the Vikings beating the Saints because of those short passes. That's how the Vikings operate, and their defense is going to get rolled all over still. But against the New Orleans Saints, that's a possible win. I would still give it best case scenario is that the Vikings go 9-7 and make a 6th or 7th seed. Of course, the Vikings will not be able to win the division, nor will they be able to get that 5th seed because of how the NFC West is looking and the NFC South. The NFC South has 2 teams that will make the playoffs. NFC West has at least 2 teams that will make the playoffs. And for that reason, the Vikings' best case scenario is that they go 9-7. And of course, this involves having a healthy Dalvin Cook, healthy secondary, and we already know this is not going to be the case. We know Dalvin Cook is most likely going to get injured. We know our corners are going to stay injured. This is best case scenario, is that the Vikings go 9-7 and make the playoffs and are going to be either one and done in the playoffs or go out right away, which is why, is the Vikings making the playoffs really anything special? Is it? Because Kirk Cousins is not going to go against these guys and win. Maybe win one game. We saw it last year. Kirk played amazing against the Saints and won. We're not going to see this happen. We're not going to see him go to a Super Bowl, go to even an NFC Championship game. We're not going to see this happen with the Minnesota Vikings. But still, best case scenario is that the Vikings go 9-7, which is very impressive after a 1-5 start. They went into that very needed bye week. I've been saying this bye week by the Minnesota Vikings after going 1-5 is very needed because they can change everything around. And so far they have. So far, they've won 2 divisional games that really is changing the season around, and now they are 3-5. Still, terrible start to the season. To go 3-5 in only 8 games, which is the first half of the season, that's a terrible start to the season. They can end the season 9-7, winning 5 out of the next 8 of their games. Or no, that would be 6 out of the next 8 of their games. I can't do math. Anyways, what do you think the best case scenario for the Minnesota Vikings would be? I don't see anything better than a 6 seed. There is 7 teams making the playoffs now, and they can make a 7th seed with a 9-7 record because of how we've seen these years prior. If you have a winning record, you will likely make the playoffs. And with 7 seeds, you could be 8-8 and make the playoffs. And Vikings will manage to lose to one of these teams. Vikings might even lose to the Jaguars for all we know. Vikings will manage to lose to one of these teams. And I think the best case scenario would be 9-7 and that the Vikings go to a 6 and 7 seed. Let me know what y'all think.